In the vast emptiness of space, Captain Jack Adams stood on the observation deck of the repair station, Hope's End, staring at what seemed to be nothing. Only he could see it, the faint outline of a massive warship, nearly invisible against the backdrop of stars. The station's sensors couldn't detect it, and most of the crew thought their captain had finally lost his mind after 30 years of service. But Jack knew better. He had served on that ship, the HSS Nemesis, before it was officially decommissioned and erased from all human records. Only a handful of survivors like him knew the truth, that the most powerful weapon humanity had ever created still drifted through space, waiting. When strange alien signals began broadcasting throughout human space, Jack recognized the pattern. It matched the frequency the Nemesis had encountered before its final, devastating battle, a battle so horrific that Earth's government had decided no record of it should exist. "Sir, we've got nothing on scanners," said Tom, the young technician who had been assigned to humor the old captain. "Trust me, son." "It's there," Jack replied, placing his hand against the cold glass. "And if those signals mean what I think they do, we're going to need it." The next day, 3 alien warships appeared at the edge of the system. They weren't there to talk. The first blast took out the station's communications array, and the second destroyed their defensive shields. As chaos erupted around him, Jack made his way to a small shuttle. He had one chance to reach the Nemesis before the aliens discovered it too. If the old ghost ship still had any fight left in it, humanity would need every bit of its terrible power. Because the enemy that had nearly destroyed it years ago, the one that had forced Earth to hide the truth about what the Nemesis had done and what it truly was, had returned. Jack fought his way through panicked crowds in the station's corridors. Alarm sirens wailed as emergency lights flashed red. Through viewport windows, he saw the alien ships, dark, angular vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their weapons charged again, preparing for another strike. "Captain Adams!" a voice called out. Jack turned to see Sam, one of the station's security officers. "Where are you going?" "We need to get to the emergency shelters." "No shelter will save us from those ships," Jack said grimly. "Get as many people to the escape pods as you can. Head for the mining colony on Titan's moon. Don't stop for anything." Sam looked confused but nodded. "What about you, sir?" Jack didn't answer. Instead, he pressed his old military ID into Sam's hand. "If I don't make it back, find Admiral Wilson at Earth Command. Tell him, Neptune Protocol. He'll understand." Before Sam could ask more questions, another blast rocked the station. A support beam crashed down nearby, sending sparks flying. Jack used the distraction to slip away, continuing his journey to the shuttle bay. When he arrived, most of the evacuation vessels were already gone. Only one small maintenance shuttle remained, its systems running a diagnostic cycle. Jack overrode the safety protocols and forced the hatch open. "Station systems critical. Complete evacuation recommended," announced an automated voice over the intercom. "Structural integrity at 42% and falling." Jack slipped into the pilot's seat and activated the launch sequence. His hands moved across the controls with practiced precision despite not having flown in years. The shuttle's engines hummed to life. "Unauthorized launch detected in Bay 7, said the computer. "Security protocols." Jack disabled the system with a quick override code. One advantage of being the station's captain, he knew all the emergency bypasses. The bay doors slid open, revealing the battle raging outside. 2 human defense frigates had arrived and were engaging the alien vessels, but they were clearly outmatched. One was already drifting, its engines dark and hull breached in multiple places. Jack guided the shuttle out of the bay, keeping low to the station's surface to mask his heat signature from enemy scanners. Once clear, he fired the thrusters at full power, not toward safety or the remaining human ships, but into the empty space where only he could see the outline of the Nemesis waiting. Behind him, another explosion tore through Hope's End station. The aliens had hit the main reactor. Jack didn't look back as the station that had been his home for the past 3 years broke apart, thousands of lives extinguished in an instant. "They'll pay for that," he whispered, his knuckles white on the shuttle controls. "All of them." As he approached the coordinates only he knew, Jack pulled a small device from his pocket, a transmitter he'd kept hidden for 10 years, against all orders. He pressed his thumb to the scanner, and it lit up with a soft blue glow. Ahead, what had appeared to be empty space began to shimmer, like heat waves rising from hot metal. The cloaking field that had hidden the Nemesis for a decade responded to the signal, revealing sections of the massive warship's hull. Jack's shuttle comm system suddenly crackled to life. No voice came through, just a series of tones that made the hair on his neck stand up. The Nemesis was acknowledging him. "I'm coming home, old friend," Jack said, guiding the shuttle toward what appeared to be a small docking bay on the warship's underside. "And this time, we're going to finish what we started." Behind him, the alien vessels detected the sudden appearance of the massive ship and adjusted their course, abandoning their attack on the human frigates to investigate this new threat. They had no way of knowing they were approaching the very weapon that had nearly annihilated their kind once before. As Jack's shuttle entered the Nemesis's docking bay, the warship systems began to awaken from their long dormancy. Lights flickered on in corridors that had been dark for years. Air circulation systems hummed to life. And deep within the ship's core, something stirred, something that was neither fully machine nor entirely alien. The weapon that humanity had deemed too dangerous to exist was waking up. Jack's shuttle drifted toward the invisible outline of the Nemesis. As he approached, the ship's cloaking field recognized his genetic signature and revealed itself, a massive black vessel stretching nearly 2 miles from bow to stern, its hull marked with battle scars and strange modifications that no human shipyard had designed. Inside, emergency lights flickered on as Jack made his way to the bridge. The ship was eerily silent, preserved exactly as it had been 10 years ago when the order came to abandon it and never speak of its existence again. Jack wasn't the only one who had disobeyed that order. As he reached the command center, he found Bill, the former chief engineer, already working at a console. "I knew you'd come," Bill said without looking up. "Saw the signals. They're back." "How many others?" Jack asked. "Just 5 of us. Not enough for a skeleton crew, but maybe enough to wake her up." One by one, the other survivors appeared: Anna, the weapons specialist, Mark, the navigation officer, Pete, the communications expert, and Dr. Lisa, the ship's surgeon. All had been monitoring the same signals, all had recognized the threat, and all had made their way back to the ship they'd sworn to forget. "The Nemesis needs at least 20 crew to function properly," Anna said, her fingers already dancing across the weapons console, running diagnostics. "Then we'll have to improvise," Jack replied, running his hand along the captain's chair. The seat seemed to warm at his touch, recognizing him. "Bill, can you get the main systems online?" Bill nodded, his face illuminated by the blue glow of his engineering station. "The AI core is still intact. If we can restart it without triggering the failsafes, it might compensate for our limited numbers." "What about power?" Mark asked, settling into his old position at navigation. "The reactors have been cold for a decade." "Not completely cold," Bill corrected him. "Something's been keeping the essential systems running at minimal levels. Life support, cloaking field, long-range sensors." "As if it knew we'd be back," Pete muttered, his voice betraying his unease. As they worked to revive the dead ship, Dr. Lisa pulled Jack aside. Her face showed the same concern it had 10 years ago, during that final, terrible battle. "You know what will happen if we reactivate the main weapon, don't you? It's why they erased us from history in the first place. The cost." "I know," Jack said grimly. But you've seen what these aliens do to human colonies. If they've come back in force, the cost of not using it will be higher. A sudden tremor ran through the ship. On the main view screen, a display flickered to life, showing the alien vessels approaching their position. They can see us now, Anna reported. Weapons charging. Status of our shields? Jack asked, taking his place in the captain's chair. Coming online, Bill replied. 30% and rising. But our weapons systems are still offline. The ship shuddered as ancient engines came to life. On the main screen, they watched as the alien forces destroyed what remained of Hope's End station. Thousands dead in minutes. They don't know what we are, Mark said, looking at the tactical display. They think we're just another human vessel. Jack took his place in the captain's chair, feeling the familiar contours adapt to his body. A blue light pulsed beneath his fingers on the control panel. Then let's remind them why they feared this ship enough to make the human race forget it ever existed. The Nemesis drifted silently toward the alien fleet, its systems running on minimal power to avoid drawing attention. Through the viewports, Jack and his small crew watched as 12 more enemy ships emerged from hyperspace, sleek, crystalline vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Dark Fleet, Anna whispered. Just like last time. Bill worked frantically at the engineering station. I've got access to the main computer, but the weapon systems are still locked down. There's a government failsafe requiring authorization codes. They didn't want anyone using this ship again, Jack said. Not after what happened at Neptune. The Neptune incident, the classified battle that had led to the Nemesis being erased from history. Official records claimed a mining accident had destroyed the Neptune research station and killed 4,000 colonists. The truth was far worse. I might be able to bypass the failsafe, Pete said, but I'll need direct access to the central core. Go, Jack ordered. Mark, plot a course that keeps us in the shadow of that moon. Lisa, check the medical bay, we'll need it operational soon. As the crew scattered to their tasks, Jack accessed a hidden compartment in his old quarters. Inside was a small, metallic cylinder, a key to understanding what the Nemesis really was. Deep within the ship, Pete reached the central AI core, a massive chamber filled with technology that looked unlike anything built by human hands. Parts of it pulsed with an organic quality, cables stretching like veins through the ship's structure. I'm in the core, Pete reported over the comms. But something's different. The system, it's changing on its own. Before Jack could respond, the ship's lights flashed brightly, then dimmed to a deep, pulsing red. On the bridge, screens activated on their own, and a voice, neither male nor female, filled the command center. Threat detected. Primary directive reinstated. Crew identification confirmed. The AI is online, Bill said in shock. But I didn't. It wasn't dormant, Jack replied. It was waiting. 3 alien warships broke from the main fleet, accelerating toward the Nemesis's position. Their sleek, dark hulls reflected no light, making them appear as moving voids against the stars. Defensive systems at 60%, Bill reported. Main guns operational, but the primary weapon still needs 14 minutes. We don't have 14 minutes, Anna said, her fingers flying over the weapon's console. Incoming fire. The first barrage struck the Nemesis's forward shields. The massive ship shuddered but held together. Return fire, Jack ordered. Conventional weapons only. Save the power for the primary. The Nemesis's gun batteries roared to life, sending streams of superheated plasma toward the approaching ships. One alien vessel took a direct hit to its midsection, breaking apart in a silent explosion. Got one. Anna shouted. Don't celebrate yet, Jack warned. Look. On the view screen, the fragments of the destroyed ship were being pulled toward the remaining 2 vessels, absorbed into their hulls. The alien ships were growing larger, adapting. "They've evolved since our last encounter," Jack said grimly. "Bill, reroute power from non-essential systems. We need full shields." The ship trembled as another volley struck, this time penetrating the outer defenses. Alarms blared as hull breaches were reported on lower decks. "Lisa, get down there with emergency kits," Jack ordered. "Seal what you can." In the AI core, Pete worked frantically as strange, fluid-like circuitry flowed and reshaped around him. "Captain, something's happening down here. The core is changing. Adapting like the alien ships." "It's responding to the threat," Jack replied. "Let it work." The ship suddenly lurched to the left as Mark executed an evasive maneuver, narrowly avoiding a concentrated beam that would have cut through their main engines. 9 minutes to primary weapon charge, the AI announced, its voice now deeper, almost eager. On the bridge, Jack removed the metal cylinder and inserted it into a port on the captain's chair. The liquid metal inside began to glow with an unnatural blue light. "What is that stuff, really?" Bill asked, watching as tendrils of blue energy spread from the chair through the bridge systems. "They called it living metal," Jack replied. "Found it on an abandoned alien station near Proxima Centauri. It communicates with the ship. Enhances it." The Nemesis shuddered, not from enemy fire, but from within. Across its vast hull, sections began to shift and reform. What had appeared to be battle damage now revealed itself as something else entirely, adaptation points where the living metal had integrated with the ship's structure. "What's happening?" Anna gasped, watching as her weapon's console flowed like liquid, reconfiguring itself beneath her fingers. "The ship is remembering what it truly is," Jack said, his voice oddly distant. Through the captain's neural link, he could feel the Nemesis awakening, not just the mechanical systems, but something deeper. On the main screen, they watched as the alien fleet surrounded them, weapons charging for a final, devastating barrage. "Shields failing," Bill reported. "Hull integrity at 27%. Primary weapon ready," the AI announced. Deep within the vessel, the living metal that had been seeded throughout the ship's systems over years of secret modifications pulsed with energy. What had begun as a human warship had slowly evolved into something more, a hybrid of human engineering and alien technology that the government had deemed too dangerous to exist. "Targeting solution acquired," the AI continued. "Multiple hostile ships detected." "Fire," Jack commanded. From the center of the Nemesis, a wave of blue-white energy erupted, rippling outward in a perfect sphere. As it touched the nearest alien vessels, they simply disintegrated, breaking down at the molecular level. "My God," whispered Mark. The energy wave continued to expand, consuming 7 alien ships before dispersing. The remaining 5 vessels immediately began to retreat, jumping to hyperspace in panic. But the transformation of the Nemesis wasn't complete. The bridge crew watched in awe and terror as the walls around them shifted, surfaces taking on an organic quality. The living metal was spreading, converting more of the ship. "This is why they erased us from history," Lisa said, returning to the bridge. "The weapon isn't just what the ship fires. The weapon is what the ship is becoming." Jack stood, blue energy crackling around his hands where they had been in contact with the captain's chair. After Neptune, they realized they couldn't control it. The living metal doesn't just enhance our technology, it learns from it, adapts it. The more we use the primary weapon, the more the ship evolves. The Nemesis emerged from hyperspace in an unmapped system, a red giant star surrounded by asteroid fields and the remains of shattered planets. Ahead, the surviving alien vessels were regrouping around what appeared to be their mothership, a massive crystalline structure the size of a small moon. On the bridge, the transformation continued. Circuitry flowed like veins through the walls, and displays appeared and disappeared as needed without anyone touching a control. The ship was adapting, becoming more efficient with each passing moment. And so was the crew. Bill stood at his engineering station, but his hands no longer touched the controls. Instead, blue energy connected his fingertips directly to the console as he communicated with the ship's systems through thought alone. The primary weapon is recharging faster than before, he reported. 42% and climbing. Anna's eyes had taken on the same blue glow as she monitored the tactical displays. I can see their ship formations, not just on the screens, but in my mind. I can predict their movements. Jack knew what was happening. The living metal was integrating with them, just as it had after the Neptune incident. Back then, frightened admirals had ordered the ship abandoned and its crew separated, hoping the effects would fade. They never had, not completely. They've detected us, Mark announced. Their fleet is moving to intercept. The alien mothership released hundreds of smaller craft, swarming toward the Nemesis like insects defending their hive. We won't be able to charge the primary weapon before they reach us, Bill warned. We don't need it yet, Jack replied, his consciousness expanding through the ship's systems. Evasive pattern delta. Conventional weapons free. The Nemesis moved with impossible grace for a vessel of its size, slipping between waves of enemy fire. Its point defense systems tracked and destroyed incoming attackers with perfect precision, while larger gun batteries picked off the capital ships one by one. But for every alien vessel they destroyed, 3 more seemed to take its place. The mothership was generating new craft, using the same adaptive technology they'd witnessed earlier. We can't outfight them all, Lisa said, the only one whose eyes remained normal, who had resisted the deeper connection with the ship. Even with, whatever we're becoming. Admiral Tom Wilson stood before the Alliance Security Council, the most powerful military and political leaders of Earth and its colonies. On the display behind him, satellite footage showed the aftermath of what the media was calling the Proxima Nova, the unexplained explosion of a star 72 hours earlier. The alien threat has been neutralized, he reported. All evidence of their fleet, including the mothership, has been destroyed. And the Nemesis? Asked the council president. The ship that we all agreed should never have existed? Tom hesitated. Still unaccounted for. After the explosion, our long-range scanners detected a hyperspace signature, but we lost track of it near the Oort cloud boundary. Murmurs filled the chamber. Some council members looked relieved, others terrified. What about the crew? Another counselor asked. The 6 who reactivated it? No sign of them either, Tom admitted. But given what we know about the living metal's effects, and the magnitude of energy released in the explosion, it's unlikely they survived in any recognizable form. The council president sighed heavily. Then we have no choice but to reinstate Protocol 0. The Nemesis never existed. The battle never happened. The alien threat was destroyed by a natural stellar phenomenon. And if they come back? Tom asked. The ship or the aliens? Then God help us all, the president replied. 5 years later, on a remote colony world at the edge of explored space, a small farm stood on a hillside overlooking the settlement. 6 people worked the land together, their features unremarkable except for their eyes, which sometimes caught the light in an unusual way. They lived quietly, spoke little to neighbors, and drew no attention to themselves. Their small home was built with strange metal components that no one questioned, and at night, blue light sometimes glowed from the basement. In orbit above the planet, invisible to all sensors, a massive ship drifted in silent watch. Not abandoned, but waiting, connected to its crew through bonds that transcended physical presence. Jack stood on the porch as the twin suns set, feeling the Nemesis in orbit above them. Through their shared consciousness, he knew that Anna and Bill were currently aboard, running diagnostics on systems that had been forever changed by the confrontation with the alien mothership. Any signals today? Lisa asked, joining him. Jack shook his head. Nothing since we destroyed their homeworld. Do you think it's really over? Jack looked up at the darkening sky. No. There will be others. Different threats, different enemies. The universe is too vast for us to be alone. And when they come? Jack's eyes briefly flashed with blue energy. Then history will forget us again.